When I come around, got the whole thing wobbin'.
Hello guys and welcome to MVP Sports. This is the college football edition of the podcast. I'm G, your host, and I'm with my longtime friend. I've known him since 2013. We have done a lot of drafts together, a lot of other podcasts that weren't as successful, and hopefully it won't be, get as highly successful as this podcast with my friend Antoine. What's up, Antoine?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Yep, it's been a long time since we have done one of these, believe it or not. Maybe our followers don't know that, but me and you have been trying to do podcasts since 2013. Was, I believe, our first ever draft that we did together. Long time ago. I mean, put it this way, Johnny Manziel was supposedly going to go number 1 to the Texans in that draft class. That was the big
time. That was 2014, actually. That was 2014, if I still remember.
Oh, yeah, right.
I remember bragging about Clowney, but it was the 2000 year because we started talking before even the draft started.
Right.
With that season still going on, Johnny Manziel was still on fire and everything.
Exactly, right. Well, as usual, you know how most people are aware of how this works. We start off with the headlines. In college football headlines, Shea Patterson has been granted eligibility to go play for the University of Michigan. Now, Shea Patterson, as everybody knows, he's been very highly touted coming out of high school. He played at the IMG Academy, which is known to have everybody on their team have scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, he's a highly talented guy. And, playing at Ole Miss and seeing how the accusations that done come down, you knew that talented players were bound to leave the school.
Yeah.
And we also saw this coming from a mile away about Ole Miss, getting all these recruits. We knew something was going under the table over there.
Yeah, definitely. That definitely was something that was there. We really knew what was going on once there was always speculations and things of that nature that something was going on, but every college football, there's always speculations of something going on, and it wasn't really revealed to the public openly until I believe Lermy Tunsil's video popped out about him taking money and all of that type of stuff, and him, getting paid, and then it also led into believing that other players were getting paid and allegations, and eventually Hugh Freeze was fired, and they allowed the transfers to leave without having to pay the consequences of serving a year ban of college football.
Something we have seen before, especially with Penn State, if those with the whole Jerry Sandusky, and then certain players were able to leave, like the running back was able to go to U.S.
Silas Red.
Yeah. And so, this isn't something new. And Shea Patterson, how do you think he's going to fare well over there at Michigan?
Well, it wasn't ideal coming out of high school as a pro-style quarterback, but Jim Harbaugh always tries to put his quarterbacks in the best position. He'll try to find your talents and put it in whatever, because if you remember his days back at San Francisco at 49ers, he didn't run the same exact offense for Alex Smith that he ran for Colin Kaepernick, and they were able to be successful in both, reaching NFC championships for 3 straight years. So, stylistically, he's not Will Spaeth. He's definitely not going to do the same stuff Will Spaeth does. He might not have Will Spaeth's arm, but he could definitely do a whole bunch of stuff athletically better than him. He could definitely roll out of the pocket, make plays with his feet. Definitely a little bit more. You'll have a little bit more designs, and it'll allow Harbaugh to see his creativity that he had for Colin Kaepernick and company, and even going back to his dates back to San Diego, with Johnson.
Right, exactly. What he had with Johnson back at San Diego State.
San Diego, University of San Diego. Yeah. So that's where I believe he came right before he came to Stanford, where he was having a lot of success there too. And that quarterback made it to the NFL.
Yeah.
He been able to produce these quarterbacks, get the best out of him. And they've called him the quarterback whisperer, but we'll see if it's going to come to fruition.
Right, and he does a very good job of he's able to in a sense, hide the flaws of the quarterbacks and not force them to do something they're not capable of doing, in a sense. And we've seen that throughout all, especially in a non-Power 5 school in San Diego State with John with
It was in San Diego. It wasn't San Diego State. It was University of San Diego.
Right, with Johnson, and then on top of that, he goes to Stanford, a not big Power 5 school, and he was able to, obviously Andrew Luck, we know what he did with him. Then he takes his talents to the NFL with two different stylistic quarterbacks, Alex Smith, and then Colin Kaepernick goes back to Michigan, and then he has a whole bunch of quarterbacks he had there with, Shane Morris, if you don't remember him, the lefty, and then he had Will Spate, then he had a whole bunch of other dudes also on the team. Now he has Shea Patterson, which is probably the most talented quarterback that he has had come in probably since Andrew Luck.
In the college level. And by the way, it's Josh Johnson from San Diego.
Yeah, okay.
Josh Johnson. Yeah.
Right.
He coached him. He went on to play for several other teams. He got drafted in the 5th round out of San Diego.
Played with Tampa Bay, right? I remember that.
San Francisco, went to Cleveland, a bunch of other places. I believe he's still playing. I'm not sure.
I believe he recently got cut by the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
So now moving on, another transfer we got here, especially from Big Ten country, ex-Ohio State quarterback Joe Burrow has picked LSU to the team he's going to. Now, this, everybody kind of saw that he was transferring, was already seeing that Dwayne Haskins, kind of took over when JT Barrett went down instead of him. And also we have Tate Martell also waiting in the wings, a talented redshirt freshman as well there too. Joe Burrow saw the writing on the walls and said he needs to go somewhere else. Now, he picked LSU. And LSU, as we're going to go later on, I do believe their head coach will be on the hot seat and is on the hot seat. And I do not know how he's going to fare there at LSU. What are your thoughts on that?
The Matt Canada thing obviously didn't work at LSU, and I didn't think it was maybe the best fit for an SEC team to run. And it's best for that type of things. Joe Burrow is just misfortunate at this time because he was supposed to be the backup to JT Barrett, but he got hurt.
Right.
Allowing someone else to be able to take his spot, and then they get to see that other guy, and then he has to come over down here and try to convince everyone that he is still the quarterback that everybody presumed that he was going to be the second string guy. Joe Burrow, I believe, was hurt before when JT Barrett went down. So they were really down to their third string quarterback at that time, and he showed enough. And then in spring, it's obviously a competition, and he kind of wanted it to be a little bit more handed to him because he doesn't want to waste his years.
Right.
Having to wait for somebody and not ever get that opportunity, and then have to maybe play his only final year, because I believe he's a junior this year, right?
Yeah, redshirt junior.
Yeah, he's a redshirt junior. So he's obviously gonna be able. He's gonna be able to play 2 years rather than just get that one last year, having to be transferred to some other school. Maybe not even have as many options as he does now, because your value kind of goes down, and you don't know how the QB scene is going to be the next year,
Exactly.
So it might not be the same opportunities there is this year. You know what you have now. Going ahead, transfer. He made the right decision, obviously. Even though it's unpopular to the old school guys, like, stick it around and see what happens, blah, 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 and if your talent is supreme, you're going to beat out that guy. That's the old mantra. That doesn't include the kids of today. So he made the right decision as far as his decision going there. But how he'll fare at LSU, your guess is as good as mine right now, because LSU does lose a lot on offense, and they weren't exactly the most prolific offense to start with anyways.
Yeah, you lose a guy like Geis, and a running game is a quarterback's best friend, his best friend to help with the passing game. And they lose also DJ Chark, their most talented wide receiver of last year. And LSU tends to not even be that competent at offense, it seems. And even since Ed Orgeron's been there, they have led a lot of talent. They have yet to recruit a quarterback there, and it's still surprising to me.
That goes back to even the Les Miles years, where that was ultimately his downfall as well too. Was once they couldn't find a quarterback.
Right. And now we're moving on to the next and our final headline. Chip Kelly has returned back to the college football scene where he has made his bones. Chip Kelly is now the head coach at the UCLA Bruins. How do you think he's going to fare this second time around in the Pac-12 after his stints in the NFL?
I mean, he could use his NFL learning as far as that, but as far as this year being able to come in the first year and try to run that type of stuff, like when he first came to the University of Oregon, the spread up tempo thing was still new to the college scene. Like it was a shell shock to the system to face Oregon. That's what I always talked about. That's why Oregon always had always gave teams that they hadn't faced Oregon yet a hard time, because it's almost a shell shock to your system facing a team that's running up tempo, 4 wide receivers, misdirections, and they're doing it all in warp speed, not giving your defensive coordinator any time to make his play call. So you have to stick in your base defense, and that means the quarterback knows what's happening every single time. So it's almost like running a practice. Practice becomes a game. It's basketball on grass.
Yeah.
And that made it really difficult for a lot of these defensive coordinators. But they started figuring out how to rotate guys in between first downs and substitutions. Now it's no longer a shell shock in the system. So we're going to have to see how much of an adjustment Chip Kelly was able to make, going from the NFL into this, because he cannot be the same exact Chip Kelly that he was at Oregon and expect UCLA to be succeeding. It's not going to work.
Right, and then everybody runs some sort of type of spread, especially in the Pac-12. Almost every team runs a spread offense except maybe Stanford. Yeah. And so it's not like any teams are going to be unfamiliar with the concept or knowing how to defend it either.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's no longer shell shock in the system.
And plus they have the new rules, right? The new rules that help you if you make an offensive substitution, a defensive substitution is allowed to be made.
Mm-hmm.
So the rules have been in place. It is nothing new. I mean, him and Oklahoma relatively were the ones who kind of ran it a bit. The whole look to the side.
There were other teams that were doing it at like Oregon. I believe Art Briles was even doing it back when he was doing it too. But it was like almost like a culture shock for a lot of us Pac-12 teams over down there in the Pac-12, because most of the teams back then were running the pro style type of system,
Yeah, West Coast.
With 2 tight ends, and we would run the football, and occasionally on third downs we'd run NFL pass concepts,
right.
Where Chip Kelly completely blew it out of the roof, and we really didn't see what we were seeing right there, and we would have wide open lanes, and coordinators were just not ready for it.
Right, exactly. And I also feel relatively the same way about Chip Kelly. The first year, I mean, he may catch certain teams off guard, let the lower teams in the Pac-12, maybe like a Cal or an Oregon State, but I do believe the other teams are just as talented, if not more talented, to be able to keep up with that certain type of offense. And also, it's still yet to be shown if he has his quarterback that he wants to, utilize on the team, because that's one of his big things. But he's also made certain quarterbacks something out of nothing with Jeremiah Masoli. I believe Darren Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and stuff like that. But, that is one thing I do say about Chip Kelly. He's able to find these lesser-known guys out of nowhere.
Well, that's a talented guy.
Yeah.
Darren Thomas, I believe, wasn't he like a 4-star?
He was a 4-star recruit out of Texas, but guy like Marcus Mariota, being blessed with him.
Well, yeah, he was fortunate to find him, but
yeah,
that's why I always say, man, don't keep your recruiting area to just being from the big states or the big cities. You sometimes got to go out of branch, go to Hawaii a couple of times a year, go out to Wyoming. Always do that from time to time. A lot of these college coaches don't do that enough. And these guys get overlooked and end up in places where they clearly probably didn't belong at.
Right, exactly.
With the level of their talent.
Yeah.
He benefited from that.
Oh, yeah, of course. And then that is true, because there is some sort of a bias when, if you're high school player, you come from the state of Texas, you tend to be ranked much higher than your positional player from a guy from Kentucky, a guy from Hawaii, a guy from even Oregon, you know. And it's true, like Texas players tend to get rated much higher than sometimes their talent should be, you know. And that's really all we have for the headlines. Remember, guys, to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notification button. You will know when we upload a new podcast or certain videos and segments. And please tweet us at MVP Podcast on Twitter and leave a comment if there are any other topics that you like us to go over. We'd be more than happy to answer those questions.
There's nothing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
I thought you were asking me.
Oh, no, I was just asking the general public.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then